Attention, everyone.
Why, hello, Kaiju fans and fiends. I'm here to talk to you about something really awesome today, traveling to Japan. Now, I've done that a whole bunch. You may remember in the last video that I made, I talked about going in 2011, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I leave later this week for my trip to Tokyo for my 2018 trip. And because I'm packing things up and getting ready for the trip, I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you some tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the ages about traveling to Japan. Now, we're not going to cover buying a flight or getting a hotel or hostel. You can find tons of information on that online already, and I feel like I would be rehashing stuff that's easily searchable through Dr. Internet. We're going to divide this video up in 3 ways. Number 1, packing things. Number 2, things to make sure you do before you go. Number 3, just some generic tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years. So let's go ahead and start with packing. During my many trips to Japan, I've actually gone with other people, friends and listeners of the Kaijucast, and one of the things I thought I would do before making this video is reach out to everybody and ask them what they thought some of the best pieces of advice I gave them were, or maybe if I forgot to tell them something, what would be some good advice to give to people who are going to Japan for the first time? The number 1 thing was bring an extra suitcase. Now, the people that I was going with are generally collectors. So the idea of going to Japan, buying a bunch of stuff, and not having room to bring it back with you is kind of terrifying. So I have in the past brought a small duffel bag with me that can double as a carry-on when I come back. It's just empty when I go, and when I go home, it's full of toys. It should be noted that there are plenty of places to actually buy luggage when you're in Japan. So if you do totally run out of room and you really need to get an entire new suitcase, it's doable. Another great piece of advice was don't overpack. I think it's really easy to overpack, especially when you're going on a long trip. Typically, I won't go to Japan for less than 7 days. Usually it's a 10-day trip. For example, this one next week is 10 days. And generally, I would say that if I'm going for 10 days and I don't have access to washers and dryers, I'm going to bring 10 days worth of clothes. But another thing to keep in mind is the more clothing you bring with you, the more dirty clothing you're going to be creating. And if you don't have access to like a washer, dryer, some kind of laundromat situation, that can actually pile up pretty fast. I would actually suggest finding some way to wash your clothes while you're in Japan. That could be another video in and of itself. Since we're talking about packing and looking at what's happening while you're over in Japan, check out the weather. Obviously, you don't want to bring a big giant coat if it's not going to be cold enough. In Japan, it does rain, and there are definitely rainy seasons, so check out when that is. You don't need to bring an umbrella because umbrellas are really cheap there, and people actually kind of pick them up and leave them all the time. So they're seen as sort of like a weird commodity. The hotel that we stayed at a couple of years ago and last year actually had umbrellas for the guests to use, and I think they did want you to bring them back, but they kind of didn't care too much. Another thing to think about taking with you is some medicine. Now, if you have some sort of prescription you're taking, obviously you want to take that with you to Japan. You don't want to leave your meds at home because you just can't get that stuff very easily. In fact, I've been to several different pharmacies or pharmacy-like places, and trying to explain exactly what someone needs to get from someone who doesn't speak the same language as you can actually be kind of difficult. I don't take a full medicine kit with me, but what I do take in my doc kit would be some sort of pain reliever, some sort of antacid, because I like to eat kind of whatever I feel like when I'm on the trip, and if I start to get a little bit ill afterwards, I want a little bit of relief, and I'm not exactly sure how to say all that stuff in Japanese. So I bring those 2 things for sure. I would actually suggest if you have any sort of medicinal creature comforts, something that you feel like you need on a general, maybe not everyday basis, but to have available at your convenience, I would definitely suggest bringing it if you can. It was suggested that you bring earplugs, potentially, and I was like, oh, is that for the plane or for the roommates snoring? And the answer was both. Snorcore! Snorcore! Down to the last few packing notes that I have. The next one is walking shoes. nice, good, solid walking shoes. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on these particular shoes, but I want you to note the tread that this has. It's definitely worn down. These shoes have been with me to Japan a couple times. I think this is going to be their last trip, and then I'm going to retire them for another pair. But you want something that's got a good chunk to it. It's going to be comfortable on your foot. The reason is that you're probably going to be walking everywhere. I did not bring up the numbers, but when I went to Japan for the 3 weeks, I had a Fitbit that was tracking my steps. And the very first day, I was there by myself, so I was totally unencumbered by anybody telling me to slow down. I put probably like close to 50,000 steps on my Fitbit in that day, which is quite a lot. And my feet were very sore the next day, but I was really glad I had good shoes. Almost done with the packing stuff. One very important thing, especially for me, because I carry a number of items, is having a good, solid day bag. Now, this is a messenger bag. Here in Portland, I do not wear these unless I go to like a comic book convention. They actually work really well at comic book conventions for me too. But in this, I'll keep my passport, my phone charging stuff, anything I need camera-wise. I'll basically keep everything in here and then have access to it throughout the day. Of course, I need to talk about one final thing that you should pack, not in your suitcase, but in this sort of day bag or whatever you take with you on the regular, and that would be a washcloth. Seriously, Japan does not have any sort of paper towel dispensaries or those Dyson Airblades. I mean, there are some in some places, but overall, when you visit a restroom in Japan, you're not going to have anything to dry your hands with after you wash them. So I've taken just your standard washcloth with me and put it in that day bag. I've also picked up some small hand washcloths as well, including this adorable Shiba Inu. Isn't he cute? Or as the Japanese say, kawaii desu ne. Okay, moving on to the next segment. That is things to do before you go. Some of these things may seem like no-brainers, but I think it's good to mention because if you forget to do them, you could be in big trouble later on. Number one, make sure you tell your bank that you're going to Japan. That means your credit cards, that means your actual bank. If you have debit cards or an ATM card you're going to use in Japan, make sure you tell your bank you're going. You don't want to get flagged and have your credit card or debit card cut off and not have the ability to call your bank while you're there. They almost always have some sort of form that indicates that you're going to be traveling. So make sure you check that out, of course, on your own bank's website. Speaking of banks, it might be good for you to figure out if your bank charges foreign transaction fees. Meaning, if you go to Tokyo and you walk into Mandarake and they have that Godzilla figure you've been looking for forever, you might want to be able to pull out your card and swipe it. So, if your bank allows foreign transactions, then you will probably be able to use your bank in the ATMs located in 7-Elevens everywhere in the country. And these are not normal 7-Elevens like we have here in America. These are amazing. If you've heard of the amazing food they serve in Japan, it's all true. It is all true. But every single one of those 7-Elevens has an ATM, and that ATM has an English option, and you can take money out from your bank directly using that ATM. And as I was saying earlier, do some research on your own as far as to what kind of rates you're getting. But for me, I actually get a better conversion rate by getting it directly from the ATM than I do if I take American dollars to any kind of money exchange system. But yeah, make sure you do your research there. Next up, let's talk about your phone. We're all glued to our smartphones these days. Everybody does it, including me. I want to be able to use my smartphone when I'm over in Japan, but what does your phone provider charge you for being in a foreign country? Does it matter which country it is or where it is, how much data you're going to use or voice, text? All that stuff has to be taken into consideration if you're going to go to Japan and use your own phone. Definitely check with your phone carrier to see if they have any special deals for international travel. Several times when I've visited Japan, I have actually rented a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot. Now these are basically small devices that fit in the palm of your hand that broadcast a Wi-Fi signal. And you would use your phone or tablet to log into that device so you could have internet access. That day bag, by the way, that I have, one of those fits perfectly right here. Anyway, there's plenty of places to rent Wi-Fi from while you're in Japan. I'll have some links in the description for you to check out, some places that I have actually used. Last but not least, something really important. Not only is it important for you to take with you, but it's important for you to do the legwork beforehand. You have to have a valid passport to travel internationally. Also, you don't want to forget that. You want to make sure you bring that with you, because I'm pretty sure they won't even let you out of the country without a passport. Okay, last section of this video is tips and tricks. Number one, and pretty much one of the most important things I learned while going to Japan, is that Google Maps is amazing, especially in Tokyo. Not only will Google Maps tell you the best paths to take to get where you want to go, if you're taking a lot of trains, it'll tell you the time, the platform sometimes, the color of the line. It tells you all sorts of great information. And like the very first time I went, I didn't have Google Maps. The second time I went, I had access to it, but I didn't realize the power. But it is definitely not infallible. Google can make mistakes just like anybody else. Obviously, plan accordingly. Don't cut your time too short. But check out Google Maps, because they have all sorts of options, like if you want to leave at a time or arrive at a place by a time. Speaking of the train systems, the Tokyo train system is incredible. Totally fun to take, and as long as you're paying attention, definitely easy enough, especially in Tokyo, to get around. Now, my friend Billy actually hooked me up with this information. This is called a Passmo card, and your city, your public transportation system may have something similar, where you load this up with money, and then you just tap it to the turnstiles as you go through, and it automatically deducts the amount of money that that train ride is going to cost you when you get to your destination. I actually got this on my second trip to Japan, and I've kept it. Actually keep it in my wallet. and the reason I do that is because I have a chain wallet. Yeah, totally 90s, I know. But I keep it in here, and basically I can just pull my wallet out and tap it on that side to the turnstile, and it totally picks it up. It works perfectly. In addition to keeping your pass in a wallet, you can also keep it in a pass case. These are very popular in Japan. So popular, in fact, that there are pass cases with ultra characters. This is Lady Kyle's Dada Passmo case that I got for her. Now, there's Passmo and there's Suica. Both of those are used almost interchangeably in Tokyo. In fact, I only found out through watching videos that there are some places that take Passmo and some places that take Suica, and they don't take the others. However, in person, I've never found that to be the case in Japan. I'm sure it is the case, but everywhere I've gone in Tokyo, you've been A-OK with the Passmo. All my people have been A-OK with the Suica card. It's all good. But I highly suggest picking one of these up, because it's way easier than going to the machines every time you want a ticket to go to your destination. Now, I'm going to keep talking about the Passmo and the Suica card for a second, because what you can use those on is not just the train system. You can use these for the buses, and even to buy little things like at convenience stores or at all the crazy vending machines they have in Tokyo. And while you can use the Passmo for just about any kind of travel, there is another way to travel the rails of Japan, and that is with a Japan Rail Pass. Now, the Rail Pass is only good for JR lines. So it is good to have the Rail Pass if you're going to be there and traveling a ton, especially if you're going outside of the cities, right? So like, I got a Rail Pass one time and we went to Osaka. Now, a bullet train ride to Osaka is about $150. And I think the Rail Pass was a little under $300. So the cost of a bullet train ticket to and from Osaka would have cost more than 1 week of a Rail Pass. That pretty much does it for all the tips and tricks that I wanted to cover for packing and getting ready to go to Tokyo. You know, I kind of put this together on the fly, so I know there's some things I missed. What do you think? Did I miss anything? Have you been to Japan and I need to relay some really important information to my viewers? Please press the like button if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see all of the content that I'm going to be coming out with, especially with this upcoming trip. And let me know what you'd like to see in a future Japan-related Kaijucast video. Until we meet again, Kaiju fiends and fans, Jamata.